Look, when I was a kid, I loved me some Road Doll, and I loved me some stop motion, but you're telling me that you combined the two, and brought on the same director that was on not only Nightmare Before Christmas, but Coraline as well? Well, of course Child May was going to eat that up. So today, let's talk about how good James and the Giant Peach was then, how it holds up now, and if it deserves to be remembered today. And as always, everything in this video is my own personal opinion. If you have different thoughts than me about this film, that's fantastic, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. With that out of the way, let's get started. James and the Giant Peach, of course, has a lot of Road Dolls elements that you'd be familiar with if you read his books, and really wacky elements as well. A young boy named James initially has a happy life with his parents, and they all plan to go to New York City since it's the city where dreams come true. I mean, if you guys plan on having a half of your money taken away by taxes, then sure. However, his parents were gobbled up by a rhino, which ends up with James having to live with his cruel aunts Sponge and Spiker. They starve him, make him their servant, and are just overall cruel to him. Basically the typical cruel adult in Road Dolls novels. Not necessarily saying that as a bad thing though. James does make friends with a spider in his window, and we get introduced to the fact that this is a musical film. The music is written by Randy Newman, who most people know as having written the music for other Disney/Pixar movies like Toy Story, A Bug's Life, and Princess and the Frog. Unfortunately, they introduced the musical format with the weakest song of the bunch in my opinion. Paul Terry is a good actor for James, but he can't really sing. The lyrics also don't really do it any favors, being pretty repetitive and unnecessary. We already know his name is James, we all know that he wants to go to New York, and we know New York is pretty far away from Europe. However, I do like the other songs in the movie, but I'll get to that in a bit. The aunts try to kill the spider in the morning, which I know that they're terrible people, but honestly, this is just me whenever I see a spider in my house. James frees the spider, and while outside, comes across a magic man who tells James that he's not meant to be unhappy, and offers up a bag of radioactive crocodile tongues that will work their magic on the first thing they touch. He warns James to be careful not to lose them, which 5 seconds later James trips and loses them. This causes a chain of events in the surrounding area, with the crocodile tongues first working their magic on a dead peach tree, causing a gigantic peach to grow on it. I will say the effects of this movie are fantastic. The actual backdrops you can tell are sets, which may bother some, but I kind of like the charm of it. It kind of gives the movie a play or a dreamlike feel to it. There are also moments that you can tell it's just stop motion in the film, but there are other aspects, like the peach growing in the tree and the peach itself. Everything from how it really looks like it's growing right in front of them, and how they crafted it to really look like a giant fruit, how it contrasts the grim landscape, and even small things like how the colors of the peach glow onto the actors' faces. I honestly love the effects used in this movie, and how the stop motion is blended with the live action. Anyhow, the aunts waste no time monetizing their prized fruit, and we do get some good one-liners.
Sorry, Father, it'll cost you double.
May God forgive you.
Thank you, brother.
I love the humor in this movie. James comes downstairs later that night, hoping to be able to play with the children, but unfortunately they all went home by that point, and of course, the aunts rub it in.
Oh, the children have gone. But you can play with their garbage.
Bitches. James takes a bite of the magic peach, which opens up a transition to the stop motion section of this movie. And we also get introduced to the bug characters of this movie. The reclusive Miss Spider, sweet and proper Mrs. Ladybug, the wise Mr. Grasshopper, the arrogant Mr. Centipede, the neurotic and fearful Earthworm, and the nearly deaf Glowworm. Now, don't mind me as I gush a little tiny bit. I love the stop motions by Henry Selick, and how much character and emotion he puts into the characters. I mean, with the Earthworm, you don't get to see his face most of the time except for his mouth, but the way they animate his sunglasses is so expressive. You can see it with other characters he's animated like Jack Skellington as well, where he doesn't even have eyes, but he's so expressive with his limited features. In this film, everyone has a different way of moving, and they all move so fluidly. And while the first song of the film was kinda weak, I like the song starting after James enters the giant peach. Are they all necessary? No. But I find them to be fun. And I like how with the first song sung by the bugs, we have different tones to match the bugs' personalities. Most of the bugs themselves have very distinct personalities, great one-liners, fantastic voice actors, and they're very memorable. The only weak link in the bugs is the glowworm. Her only personality traits are being old and nearly deaf, and she occasionally acts as a backup vocals in songs and keeps the interior of the peach lit. She is honestly either a cross between a grandmother just sitting in a chair or a lamp. Kinda just just sits there and you occasionally realize that she exists. But anyway, the aunts go out looking for James, and the centipede cuts the peach loose. Luckily for the aunts, this isn't the book, as they don't get crushed and unalived here. Just slightly inconvenienced. James, the bugs, and the peach make it to the ocean, and they discover that their destination is New York City, the place where all of them could have a place to belong. However, they can't celebrate for long, as they kind of begin to realize that they have no way of actually steering the peach, or seeing which direction they're even going. And something is emerging from the depths of the ocean. Oh yay, my childhood nightmares. This movie is bizarre. There are things in here that are unexplained, like this mechanical shark or the carnivorous ghost rhino we'll eventually be getting to. Though with the shark, I interpreted that it's part of James's fear of his aunts finding him, since the shark spits out fish heads that look like the fish heads the aunts tried to feed James earlier in the film. There are objects in the background and creatures in the film that have imagery tying back to the aunts, but the objects and everything are symbolic, symbolizing James's fear and anxiety that he will be found and brought back to the house that made him miserable. Or I'm just overreaching and this is a literal robot shark in the middle of the ocean. Who knows? All of the bugs work together, earthworm a bit unwillingly, to catch enough seagulls and tether them to the peach to escape the shark. And we do get a nice moment between James and the earthworm after the whole ordeal, where James helps the earthworm to look at things a different way and be more optimistic. We love a found family where they help each other grow. Though I do think all the bugs used up all their brain cells during the shark ordeal, since they starve for a while before James brings up the fact that they were all literally standing on food. We then get a song that isn't really necessary, but it is fun and catchy, so I'll let it pass. Miss Spider even loosens up a little tiny bit and has some fun with everyone, though we see in a conversation between her and James that she is not necessarily willing to open up or befriend the other bugs, especially since it's in their nature to be afraid of her, because, you know, Spooter. And we find out that she is closer to James because she was the spider in his window that we saw earlier in the movie, and they have a nice heart-to-heart, with Miss Spider reassuring James that the aunts will never find him. I do love these quiet moments in the film, where the characters can just talk. It's kind of a shame we only see it between James, Miss Spider, Earthworm, and Mr. Grasshopper, though. When James goes to sleep that night, we get a really trippy nightmare sequence. I love it when animation is mixed like this. I did enjoy Courage the Cowardly Dog as a kid, after all, though for some of you, this might be childhood nightmares as well. We've reached the boiling point in one of the coldest places on Earth, as the centipede had fallen asleep at the helm and gets the peach drifted off course.
What's your latitude? What's your longitude?
Hey! That's personal, bub.
Not only that, but we found out that he was never truly a navigator like he claimed. We do get to see turning points for the character's development starting at this point, especially for the centipede, as he starts to feel guilty when the others aren't looking when it seems like all hope is lost, and decides to risk his life to go down to the shipwrecks and find a compass so they can navigate their way to New York. The others feel guilty for driving the centipede off, and Miss Spider and James go down to find him. The atmosphere down in the shipwrecks is amazing. The effect for the water looks incredible, and I love how dark it is outside the focal point to really show how deep it is. And you just hear the creaking of wood alongside the suspenseful music. It is mwah, chef's kiss. The centipede manages to find a compass, but is captured by skeleton pirates shortly after, and honestly, I'm surprised that part of the puppet for Jack Skellington was allowed to be used, as considering how controlling Disney can be, though perhaps they were wanting to use it for more merchandise opportunities.
And since I am dead, I can take off my head.
James and Miss Spider find the centipede before he can be split in half, and a fun underwater battle ensues between the bugs and pirates, before Centipede risks himself last second to fight off all the pirates so James and Miss Spider can be pulled up to the surface with the compass, and the centipede is deaded. Nah, just kidding, he's fine. And the spider and centipede become romantically involved. Though honestly, I kinda ship the centipede and grasshopper. Though this is the turning point where the characters not only evolve in their character development, but they also feel more solidified as a team and as a found family, which we love it. We also do get a really nice and quiet moment between Mr. Grasshopper and James that night, before we get to the last song sung by the characters. This one isn't as weak as the first one, but I wouldn't say it's as catchy as the other two, but the visuals are really creative. And after the bugs promise to be with James forever, we see them flying over New York City. Roll the credits. What a great movie. Oh, it's not over? Oh, my bad. A storm starts to brew nearby.
We'll wind up in
And worse than ending up in Jersey, the Rhino Cloud appears. Honestly, this whole Rhino thing was confused ever since I was younger, as I imagined that the original Rhino that ate James's parents would be a real rhino like in the book, but in this movie, is it a real rhino? Is it something supernatural? Is it some kind of nightmarish vision and trick of the eye based on his fears of what happened before? And this is supposed to be just like a normal storm or something? What in the world did James do where a possibly supernatural rhino is trying to curse him to a life of being lonely and unhappy forever? Well, James tries to stand up to the angry cloud rhino, but it shoots down the peach, separating James from the bugs. We transition back to the live-action realm as it's discovered that James landed on the Empire State Building. The set for New York City doesn't necessarily look super realistic, but I think that works better being stylized like this. It does lean more into the play sort of style, and I like the forced perspective used to make objects look bigger or smaller than they actually are in such a small space. It looks a lot more memorable than if they just filmed the New York City straight up, and it blends better with how the bugs and other areas of the film looked. Well, everyone in New York is trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and lo and behold, the aunts show up. And honestly, the fact that they were so determined that they drove across the ocean instead of just taking a plane or a boat is absolutely hilarious. They try to get back James and the Peach, and it almost seems like the people think James is crazy when he starts talking about how he got there with the peach. However, he spills the tea on the aunts and stands up for himself.
I made it! I'm not the one who's nothing, you are! And I'm never going back with you!
Yes, you go, James. I'm proud of you, my boy. Oh, Jesus Christ! But luckily, the bugs come back, not only proving James to be right, but getting rid of the aunts once and for all. James lets the kids of New York eat the peach, and he and the bugs form their house from the Peach's Pit in Grand Central Park, where they all live as a happy family. So, how does James and the Giant Peach hold up, and does it deserve to be remembered? If you're not a fan of Roald Dahl's stories, you probably won't like this one. However, if you're a fan of the book, you'll probably like this one, even though they are both pretty different. The actor James and the voice actor of the bugs all do an incredible job, and while the aunts are over the top, they do fit the Roald Dahl's villain archetype. The stop motion is incredible, and the blending of stop motion and live action actually is not that bad. The songs kind of vary in quality and necessity, but I would still not call any of them bad. Some parts are kind of strange, like the Ghost Rhino. However, it is still a fun adventure. Is it the greatest film ever made? No. Is it a classic that deserves to be remembered and passed down? Absolutely. And that was James and the Giant Peach. I hope this brought back some nostalgic memories for you, and be sure to let me know if you ever saw this film in the comments down below. And if you want to join me on the next nostalgia trip, make sure to click the subscribe button and notification bell down below. Until next time, this is Dance Macabre, signing off. Bye.